Well, the new year is bringing big changes for online consumers in California. The state's Consumer Protection Act went into effect on January 1st. The new law allows people to ask companies what data they have collected, demand it be deleted, and prevent it from being sold to third parties. Sara Fischer is an Axios media reporter. She joins me now from Washington to break down the new law. Sara, Happy New Year. Let's start with the basics. Why did this law pass, and how does it impact everyday consumers?
Well, the law passed because last year, GDPR, which is a data regulation from Europe, went into effect. And so a lot of American companies had to alter their businesses anyway to comply to a European law. So lawmakers in the United States said, you know what, we here should probably consider a privacy law as well. And California is the first state to really pass something. What it means for consumers is that they're going to have a lot more control over the way that their personal data is used and is sold. They can, as you mentioned, request to have it be deleted or request to have it be transferred. That's a big deal, Tom, because in the past, American consumers had no control, very little control over the way that their personal data was used online. This is the first state law, the first step towards giving consumers power over their data.
And, you know, you bring up the laws that are in place in the EU. Can you walk me through that? Because those laws were put into place to hone in on privacy laws following Cambridge Analytica and that whole scandal. How does this law in California compare?
Great question. I actually think this law is a lot more strict, and in some cases it's more strict just because it's a little bit more loose and broadly written. GDPR was written and passed in May 2016. It went into effect in May 2018. CCPA passed earlier this year. It goes into effect yesterday, New Year's Day, and in July is when you can start actually suing companies for not complying. The main difference is this. One, it has some parameters around whether or not consumers can move their data. What does that mean? Well, let's say you're applying for jobs, Tom, and you go and you post your resume and you fill out all these fields on LinkedIn, and you then want to push that job application to Indeed. This law will allow you to download your data and potentially move it to another site, so it can be helpful, but it also allows consumers to opt out. That means that if a website is collecting your data, it allows consumers to say, you know what, I don't want to have that happen to me. Now, the law says that a website cannot discriminate against you for opting out, meaning it can't say, well, we're not going to serve you this video because you don't opt out. GDPR, the exact opposite. GDPR allows you to opt in. GDPR says you can come visit my website if you are okay with us accepting your data, and then you can say, I'm okay. So they're kind of opposite there. I'd say the big takeaway for everyone in America, though, that you should know is this. Now that California has passed this, expect other states to start passing laws, or what's probably more likely is expect a national law, a national privacy law, to pass sometime in the near future.
Now, there's certainly been a lot of gray area when it comes to personal privacy. Now, California, obviously the home to a lot of big tech companies that people all around the country use. So does this consumer law affect people who are not in California?
So this law affects only residents of California. That's different also than GDPR. GDPR is not residents. GDPR is anyone visiting Europe at the time. But here's the thing, Tom. At the end of the day, if you're a website, a big commercial website, you're bound to have at least some of your consumers be residents of California. It's one of the biggest states in the United States. And so what you can expect is that it's going to affect everyone, because companies like Microsoft has said that they've done this. They're going to change their privacy policies across the board for everyone that consumes their content online, not just residents of California, simply because it's easier to make changes across the board than it is to have them only apply to one state.
Has there been any pushback from major tech companies?
Huge pushback. I mean, if you are Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, or if you're Evan Spiegel at Snapchat, you don't want to have to comply to 50 different state laws. Instead, you would rather just comply to one federal law. And so what's amazing here is that when California first started to talk about this law, you had CEOs of tech companies for the first time ever come out and say, you know what, we'd rather have a national privacy law. Advertising groups, the CEOs of telecom companies, tech companies, all now are in agreement that they'd rather have something passed at the federal level than have to adhere to things at the state level. And so that's the thing that you should keep your eye on, and that all viewers of CBSN should keep their eye on next, is whether or not we have a national privacy law passed in the next few years.
California is so often a pioneer in these kinds of things. Sara Fischer, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.